Hi, this is Eric Durek, and welcome to this edition of Med Health Fit, the TV show that integrates wellness and healthcare. And tonight we are going back into the realm of a different kind of medicine, a very ancient medicine. It's called Ayurvedic medicine, and I'm happy to welcome Corinna. And your last name is Maharani,
Maharani, yes.
Maharani, which sounds very yogic, very much from India.
Yes,
you're not
true.
from India, you're from Germany.
It's true.
So tell us how you got into Ayurvedic, and you actually changed your name, and it's really become a big part of your life, correct?
Yes, it has. I was actually 17 years old when I first learned about Ayurveda in Germany. It was rather popular there at the time already, far more popular than here in the US. And a book found me. I don't even know who gave me this book. And in it was talking about the different principles of Ayurvedic medicine, and it was such an eye-opener for me. As a young person, I was always searching for identity, like everybody at that age. And I understood that Ayurveda was preaching a way of life that was honoring our individuality. And it made me understand so many things about me, that why some things worked for me really well, that didn't work for my siblings, or why I could not tolerate a particular food, but my siblings could, and vice versa. So I understood that there was so much more to learn. And when I was 21, I ventured to America, and I studied Ayurvedic medicine at the Maharishi International University. And
where's that at? Is that
in Iowa.
In Iowa.
Yeah,
really?
Very bold at the time.
It's interesting, because you'd think it would be in, I don't know, Los Angeles or someplace. But.
No, it's true. It was actually a school or a movement through the Maharishi movement, the transcendental movement, that started actually in Santa Barbara. So it went then to Iowa and started a big university that's still there.
Good.
And I was very much interested in the practical application of Ayurveda, the hands-on approach that deals with lots of the treatment modalities. And
we'll talk a little bit about some of the treatments, because you were actually kind enough to bring a video that we'll play in a couple questions here. But before I ask about the principles of Ayurveda, I've had a couple guests on the show who said that they got into nutrition or they got into health training or something because they had an issue when they were little that their doctors just couldn't help them with. And so they moved into this other realm that they got not immediate relief, but they got profound relief. Did that happen with you?
It did. Everything changed for me when I learned about Ayurveda, because I was testing its principles and I realized that it worked. And it is a medicine that survived for 5,000 years because it works. And it kind of developed along with us humans. And it taught us really how to live in accordance with nature, how to choose the perfect diet, how to choose the perfect exercise regimen, herbs, and even things like what are good colors for you or what are good aromas for you. So it really encompasses everything. But what I love about Ayurveda the most, and what I've learned, was it is very empowering. When you learn about it, you can actually help yourself in many ways. So you're not just handing your treatment or your care over to an outside individual. You're learning more about yourself through Ayurveda, and then can apply these principles to bring more balance and health into your life.
Well, and that, I think, is, and I was on the phone with someone driving over here who is herself a big diet and exercise person, and we were talking a little bit about healthcare, and she says, people are starting to wake up a little. And I really think that, like I say, with technology like the blood lab company that we spoke of before we were on the air, it's giving at least people more choices, that they can do things like they can log on to their Map My Walk or Map My Ride or something, and they can look to see how many steps they've taken, or how their heart rate, their weight over time, all this information, if they use it the correct way. So you say that Ayurveda is thousands of years old, and it's based on 3 key principles. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, in the West we talk a lot about the different doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and most people have heard them before. The fact is that we have to kind of understand what they are comprised of to really understand what they are. And when we talk about the doshas, we usually mean a person's unique body type or constitution. And
so a dosha is based on the person, it's not just based on 3 pillars.
Right. Okay. It's kind of the unique makeup that we all have. So, but let me back up a tiny bit to explain what Vata, Pitta, and Kapha is. So in Ayurveda, we say in the beginning there was just a lot of emptiness. There was space. And you know, quantum physics would agree with that. And in the beginning, there was just nothing but space. And then dynamism became activated.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so you're going back to the beginning of time.
I'm going
here.
back to the beginning because it is important to understand the elementals when you talk about the doshas.
Mm-hmm.
So there are basically space, there's air, there's fire, there's water, and there are earth. And they all were created to make the world happen. And everything in the world is made out of them. So think about, for example, the element fire. It's a symbolic element of metabolism, or the element of earth is symbolic for structure,
right?
Or air is symbolic for movement, because air is very, you know, mobile.
Right.
So these elements are then comprised into the three main pillars: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And then we say that a person is a unique blend of these, and you can say that the people that we say are Vata body types, they're comprised of mostly space and air.
Mm-hmm.
So they have elements in them that are more light. So they look more lighter, their skin is thinner, they have less moisture in them because everything is symbolized through air and space. And a person that is comprised of Kapha dosha, for example, is comprised of earth and water. So these are very nurturing elements. So they have more structure and they're more solidly built. They're usually broader and sturdier. They have more moisture.
Well, it's interesting because in sports medicine, there's ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph.
Exactly.
And you're kind of explaining a little bit about those. Is that an endomorph is someone who's muscular, and ectomorph is someone who's you know, more thin and wiry, etc. And then, you know, the mesomorph is the really bulky type person, where the bodybuilder type. And then you have people who they all have characteristics of each of them, and you can actually put them in the triangle where a person can be a little bit more of this and less of that. So I'm hearing that. So I'm understanding it from that element.
And I'd like to add one thing really quick. When Ayurveda came to the West, and it was really brought here maybe like in 20, 30 years ago, and became more popular really then, we used our Western model of these body types to understand what Ayurveda is. Mm-hmm. But the body typing, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha body typing, is really not that important when you're a practitioner. You actually have to look at what other elements are in your body presently out of balance. So while you are born with the DNA blueprint,
right,
you know, I can look at you and can say, you have some good fire in you. You have a very fiery, you know, look in your eyes that's very sharp. You have a good keen intellect that's considered very pitta. Mm-hmm. You have a good healthy pigment, and also, so all these things show me that you have very much of a pitta constitution. But even though you could have an imbalance in Vata or Kapha.
Right.
So you could have, for example, a lot of heavy foods and you become more Kapha.
Right, and there's certain things that I will not eat. Like, I'm not a big meat eater. Not because I don't like meat. I mean, I have little, you know, whatever. But I'm not a guy that's going to sit down and eat a 16-ounce steak. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't kind of sit well with me, and it never has.
What does it do to you?
Oh, it's hard to digest. Right. It's kind of indigestion. I feel bloated. I feel heavy. So if I do go to some place where there's tri-tip, which is usually very delicious, I have very, very small piece.
And some people with a pitta constitution also feel they get a little aggressive with meat because, you know, meat has a lot of these stress hormones in them.
Yeah. So. Well, and again, there's lots of things that we can go just in terms of the food issue. So my next question about Ayurveda is we've got this foundation. And you say it's a medicine that's been around for thousands of years.
Yes.
I'm sure that the American Medical Association may not agree with that, but do you actually diagnose disease, or in other areas, do you assess someone and then sort of make not a differential diagnosis, but do you sort of take from that assessment and say, well, these are some things that we can do?
No. So an Ayurvedic practitioner is not permitted to diagnose or treat disease. So first of all, however, I believe that alternative medicine is actually the original medicine. So we should call Western medicine the alternative medicine.
Well, I like to refer to it as allopathic, because that's a name that's been given to it. And or Western medicine, because I really, and this is a whole nother TV show for us. But you know, I'm looking at. We talked a little bit with Ayurveda, homeopathic, other types of therapies, other types of interventions with people, and they're all constrained by the medical society here by saying, well, we don't diagnose things. Well, you know, somebody breaks their arm, you know, their mom can diagnose that it's a broken arm, and it shouldn't be. And I really think that there are some huge issues with medicine. So even though the Ayurveda doesn't per se diagnose, you still can tell when someone's out of balance.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about how you work with things like a person's eating patterns, their sleeping patterns, etc., and you build the blocks to health. Go ahead.
Oh, I'd love to. First of all, the view of disease in Ayurveda is very different from allopathic medicine. We believe that health is also indicated not just by the absence of disease, but also by, you know, are you living your full potential? Are you living your optimum health? In Ayurvedic medicine, we look at a person completely. We listen to their health history. We understand their day routines. We spend a lot of time understanding really more about what their diet looks like. And we also do a version of a pulse diagnostic that many are familiar with through Chinese medicine. And we even can look at a person's face, at the eye, and at the tongue to find out what their level of toxicity might be, or what might be going on. And so first we analyze a person's birth constitution, their body type. That's very helpful. So we know what their basic constitution is, helps us where do we need to go with them. And then secondly, we look at what imbalances are present. So if somebody has a lot of heat, that means they have a lot of fire. That means they usually have inflammation. They tend to have diarrhea. They have skin disease that maybe breaks out more. If somebody has, you know, more of a earth imbalance, then they usually tend to have too much weight. They're congested a lot. They might have a lot of allergies and so on.
Interesting. Well, that brings us to the next question, and this next question is going to lead us to a video that you brought about panchakarma.
Yes.
And I want you to explain a little of that, and basically this is part of the removal of some of these toxins from the body. But
Correct.
do you want to have us?
Sure.
Let's talk the video. So Michael, let's run the video here, and this is actually someone who's in your practice. Who's going through a series of things that you're doing. So explain to us what you're doing with this person here.
This is called the Shirodhara treatment. So in Panchakarma, we purify not just the body, but also the mind. And this is a treatment where we pour oil over a person's forehead to cause a sense of transcendence. And in that place, usually the mind begins to unravel and impurities release. We use a lot of different oils in our practice because we believe that through oil therapy we can softening toxins in the body. And toxins are basically things in the body that are not being absorbed and they're not being eliminated. They get stuck. And while naturally we are using the body's natural channels to release toxins such as sweating, exhaling, you know, through excretions, in Panchakarma we are going very deep to allow the body to let go of toxins using all these natural channels of eliminations to actually remove toxins on a deep cellular level.
And does Panchakarma rely on not just the oil treatment, but a change in diet or other types of things, like you say, sweating? So would this entail someone being involved with, I'm going to use the phrase like hot yoga? And hot yoga, I know, that it's not just for people to, you know, get this great workout, but it's also in elimination, because that's part of the yoga philosophy. Absolutely. Is that if you can exercise at this temperature, your body's going to eliminate a lot more of these toxins, and that's kind of the first and foremost. You know, people in America are like, I got a good sweat going. And so they read into it a little bit differently. But so, am I on the right track?
You're on the right track. Okay. I would say that the body, the skin as the largest organ, is not just there to excrete toxins from the body, and we use that through using steam boxes and steam therapies, but we also apply things to the body that then get absorbed through the skin. So an herbalized massage oil that we use in Ayurvedic massage gets absorbed within 7 hours and can be shown inside the bloodstream. And that herb that is inside the oil is then beginning to, you know, heal the body potentially from inside.
And if the oil is absorbed and you know that it's in the system, is it actually helping to clean or eliminate, or is it just running, you know?
Because everything is so customized, it depends on the oils that we use. Some oils are meant to detoxify, they pull toxins out or acidity. Other oils are meant to be more nurturing, they're more rebuilding.
Okay. Okay.
And Panchakarma has a lot of different therapies. So from silk glove massage to different body pastes. But you said something interesting. You said, well, Panchakarma is not just like a therapy you start with. You actually want to think about diet and lifestyle and herbs kind of before you enter into doing a detoxification cleanse, because the things you do every day are the most important things in your life. They make the biggest impact.
And any dietitian, any nutrition coach, any exercise professional will tell you that it's a slow process. It's a pay attention to what you're doing everyday process. And I would venture that your realm of Panchakarma is here is the information that we're giving to you. Now you've got to sort of build your daily lifestyle habit around this. And you know, one of the things that I saw on the video is that there's the relaxation component.
Yes.
And I would venture that Ayurveda has a very large meditative, relaxation component to it that I think is so important for people today. So tell me a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the number one cause of disease is supposed to be is stress. Stress is very high, and for people just to take time out sometimes to nurture themselves, to do self-care for themselves, or to go get a treatment, a massage, or do Panchakarma, which is really a series of treatments over a period of time, you know, at least 5 days or so, minimum. You go so deep into your own self-healing, and you can feel these imbalances coming out gently. It's designed to not toss you into a state of imbalance by balancing you. Ayurveda is all about going with you, not against you.
And I would think that, like people taking antibiotics do play a role, but when people take too much, it completely wipes out their good gut flora, and they're in trouble for months,
so
which happened to me in college. I had something, I don't know, lung infection or something, and I took antibiotics, and 4 months later I said, this is just, so you know, you sort of pay the price for some of that stuff. Before we went on air, I told you that my introduction to Ayurveda 20-some years ago was Deepak Chopra.
Right.
And almost everyone in America knows who Deepak Chopra is. I think that he has done a masterful job at taking a concept, an old, established concept, and bringing it to the masses. He really has done a great job with that. So that being said, how many people in America actually use Ayurveda? Is it 1% of the population? Is it 5%?
It's interesting. You know, it's an ever-growing number for sure. And I think what is wonderful about it is, speaking of Chopra, I really enjoy Chopra too. But I had a teacher that comes. His name is Vaidya Ramakant Mishra. He comes from a tradition that goes back 126 generations. So Ayurveda is not something that just going to go, it's not going to go away. And actually, increasingly, as our toxins become more bombarding, people are leaning more into the usage of Ayurvedic medicine more and more.
Good, because you know,
and it has to be customized for modern time, and that's what I learned from my teacher in particular, because really you cannot apply the same yogic principles that people applied thousands of years ago to modern science, to modern world.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's still a foundation.
Of course.
Of you know, like you say, you've got your Vata, Pitta, and Kapha,
yes,
and those will not change. But you can constantly tweak, and like I say, and the toxins have certainly changed. So.
But how do we deal with cell phones? For example, they didn't know about cell phones thousands of years ago.
Exactly.
And so this is where it's lovely to have a living master like I had the chance to have, to really ask these questions. You know, how do you deal with these things?
But it's interesting, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, Nikola Tesla knew about all these types of things, even though there wasn't a cell phone yet. He knew about some of those basic principles have been around. They're just adapted. So if you're telling me that Ayurveda is now adapting to our environment now, I say good, and I think that more people need to know about this. So does Ayurveda benefit people with conditions like obesity? This is something that Americans really struggle with, and this is one thing that I think that our Western allopathic medical treatment has completely missed the boat on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that we're all going through these fad diets where people, lose a lot of weight, but then get depleted and imbalanced. And Ayurveda is really about maintaining your homeostasis during the process. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it's a slow, gradual process. That is true, but it's also very encouraging when you notice right away that you're on the right path. So when you gradually, for example, you mentioned obesity, gradually lose weight, you also notice that you lose heaviness of the thought, maybe like a little bit of a depression.
But wouldn't your skin feel a little better, and wouldn't your stomach not hurt as much? And,
exactly.
And your feet. So those are the things that I think with Ayurveda, in my opinion, that you, the practitioner, would help them concentrate on. Is this, you only lost, a pound this week, you're a failure. And I think that we've concentrated on the wrong thing. I think that medicine in some respects is looking at the wrong thing.
And not everybody is supposed to be skinny. Some people have a more voluptuous body type and they should embrace it. So Ayurveda really wants to teach you to love who you are, mm-hmm. and seek the diet and the lifestyle that is most appropriate for you. And a practitioner can help you with determine what that is.
I like you say the word voluptuous because even the fitness profession is now moving away from lose that weight to, we want plus size people to be in our classes, and we want to get you healthier, we want to get you more fit.
Yes.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned my name, Maharani. It means literally the great queen, and it's not that I think I'm the great queen.
I think you
But this is my homage to the divine feminine aspect in all of us, which is much more embracing shape and form. And it's more of that motherly nurturing aspect that needs to come out, especially when we think about ourselves. It's not about trying to fit in a box. You are a unique individual and you should embrace it and enjoy that path that brings you back to your core. And as the world gets more and more faster moving, more and more crazy, people are discovering Ayurveda as a path back to your original source. And it's a wonderful path.
Well, I think if you look at body types, if you look at some of the ancient hieroglyphics versus the masters of the 16th and 17th, all women had voluptuous bodies. It's only when Twiggy came along in the 60s that they started, maybe women should be skinny.
Yes. And
I had a friend of mine give a talk at a fitness conference where she actually talked about a series of modeling things where they were called the heroine look. And I'm like, well, that's terrible.
Well, it's also self-image in general. Exactly. I mean, for example, it's not permitted to age. Why is that? Why can't we embrace again, especially as women, like the aspect of being older? When I turned 50 a couple years ago, for me, it was a place where I finally embraced teaching. And that's when I started the Maharani Academy, because it wasn't just about working individually one-on-one. I also felt like, I've done this for 30 years. Now it's time for me to go out there and also share what I learned from my teacher, Vaidya Ramakant Mishra, and what I've learned through practical experience.
And you're reading my mind, because that was my next question. It's like, so tell us about the center. So you went from the individual working sort of one-on-one with clients, which is sort of the way Santa Barbara is. Everyone's, a massage, or they work, they're with their individual clients. You've decided to open up a center so you can actually have classes. You can have maybe destination a spot where people can come for weekly seminars. Tell us about that.
So right now I'm a resident of this Santa Barbara Center for Arts, Science and Technology. It's called SBCAST. And out of that center I'm running my school. And it's starting next week. I'm very excited. It's a 3-month program online, and then there are also 2 hands-on workshops in the fall. And I'm using what I call the 3 gateways of learning. I first of all want to teach people to get more in touch with their inner wisdom. So that's the first gateway. So I'm encouraging people to enhancing their own ability to tune into what they know is right by improving their own sense of well-being through self-care rituals, to learning about Ayurveda. And then the second thing is, the second gateway that I teach is the precision touch, because I learned from such a wonderful teacher and who had such a lineage behind them, not everything can be figured out intuitively. Lots of things have to be taught with precision, especially when I work on what we call the mama points, or which are these energetic centers located on the body, or when I talk about mantras or techniques that are ancient, I want to make sure people learn them with precision, so that
it's like studying anatomy. Is that you have to study the anatomy, will always be the anatomy, and then if you want to go into biomechanics or if you want to go into immunology, whatever, you branch off from there.
Yes.
So there still has to be a foundation, and it sort of takes it back up to the foundation of the three principles. In that you
want to learn it with precision. It survived 5,000 years. Let's not lose it now.
Well, that's exactly true. I think that I think again, medicine has completely lost its way. And if you look back 100 years ago at allopathic medicine with bloodletting, etc., and then in the 1920s and 30s where they started to go into pharmaceuticals, a little might have been good, but I think we have just way too much of that. So your timing, I mean, here you're going to be opening the center, the education component. Here you are on this TV show, really talking to us about something that's rich, it's old, it's established. It does do good work. I mean, for everything in today's world is outcomes and big data and whatever. You can show that people that this works.
Oh, absolutely. I think you will discover yourself that it works. That is when it becomes interesting. And while sometimes hearing about these principles seems like, what does all this mean? Once you understand the basics, you can apply it for everything. And that's very self-empowering. And I just want to say the last principle of my teaching is the healing ceremony. It's when you learn all the things you do and you're putting it all together. So healing ceremony means to me creating an environment for yourself that implements aromas and colors and tastes and food, and all the senses are included in that. And you learn how to choose these things. And that is where my school is going.
Well, and I think that that's wonderful because I know that if you take an antibiotic and it sort of helps you in one area but kind of destroys another, whereas Ayurveda helps improve all of these things without destroying anything. It's building on that foundation. I think it's amazing. Do you have any doctors who are interested in what you do?
Oh yeah, there are lots of doctors, even locally, that practice Ayurvedic medicine.
Good for them, because
and we work together, and it is completely compatible with Western medicine or allopathic medicine. It's not an either-or thing at all.
Okay, so where are you located here in Santa Barbara?
So I'm at 513 Garden Street, Santa Barbara.
Right downtown.
And that's where the school is located, at the Center for Arts, Science and Technology, Studio H. And my clinic is actually on Bass Street, down on Bass and Arriaga. But I do it by appointment only. I keep it conscientiously kind of small because I have a very stable client base, but I invite people to come and learn more about Panchakarma.
Excellent. Well, I think this is terrific. And you see with the center, you kind of see that you're going to be doing more in the future, more retreats, more whatever. So quick, what phone number where people can get a hold of you?
So my phone number is 805-452-2526.
And I know that Michael has put some of your information on the bottom of the screen. So it's right there. And so thank you for being on the show. I'm sure we'll have you on again because this is such a fascinating topic. But this is Eric Durak for MedHealth Fit and our guest, Corinna Maharani. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time right here on MedHealth Fit.